Swan Trust is now 10 schools. We were originally 5, then took in a new school, I think within a year of me joining. Rebecca has been with me from the beginning, so she's in my team. And then we merged basically with another trust last March. So that's been quite massive because we both had access, but we both used access completely differently.
Very differently.
Yeah. My background's not education at all. I came from the corporate sector, so much like Rebecca, so it's a bit of a shock. First day in was, I think, the first day that was welcoming you in. Yes, my first day was, you're going to implement access. Okay, so I knew nothing about DFE chart, nothing like that. So that was my first sort of week, and then it was training 6 people on how to use access. So we had all that resistance to change. We had a couple people leave, which was kind of, like you say, sometimes people go because they don't want to. They want to keep doing the school business manager role. There are a lot of people who still want to do that function. And now we have got access finance, access budgets, HR people, and the payroll service.
And you've been with us for what,
6 years? 6 ago and 7. People we put in for the 6 schools about 2 years ago now. And then obviously we've just done a merged payroll. We've merged the payrolls together. Obviously for us within Surrey, we had the big Surrey's leaving you. You're going to be on your own. Luckily the 6 schools made that call a year before.
Yeah.
Or just, 8 months before actually.
It wasn't even that long, was it?
But for the 4 schools, they hadn't. So that was quite difficult in terms of bringing that on. So we've been through quite a big journey with access. I don't think we'd be coping without it. If I looked at the systems that were in place before, we've automated a lot of different things, particularly things within HR, sort of on overtime forms. We've got sessional rate forms. We have casual hours forms. We have so many forms that were paper-based. It was ridiculous. What's been interesting through that process and automating it, because the head teachers approved that, is we quickly identified that our teachers didn't know what was the difference between an overtime form and a casual hours form. So they were just approving them, just like hitting the button, but not really reviewing. So that has taken some re-education, certainly. Payroll was a big one. I think for a lot of our schools, through our council, treating us still as maintained schools. So the ownership of payroll didn't sit with the academies effectively. So that was a bit of a shock for a lot of the sort of people who are handling the HR piece. But we've centralized that now. Pensions is probably our most difficult bit. I think one of the big difficulties was iConnect.
Yes.
Because trying to find out from Surrey if you could send an iConnect thing, and they were like, well, yes, you can, only to tell us that they weren't releasing any more iConnect abilities. So we had to go through that with LGPS for a very long time, but we managed to get that rolled out, and we're helping other trusts roll that out as well. But yeah, we've had a lot of support, certainly from the team that works in the consultancy in terms of helping us bring everything and access online. But yeah, it has been a very long journey. It's still ongoing. We still are nowhere near maximising as much efficiency as we can. We're still working our way, but like you say, it's chipping at it one step at a time. You can't really take everything on it all at once. So,
and I was going to say, like, have you? The difference obviously is quite big. What's the next sort of step for boosting that sort of operational efficiency?
I think for us, we've had a lot of change. At the moment now we've got the 10 schools together. So there's an education piece in terms of how we do things and improving that. But one thing we're sort of looking more at and have to look more at now is cash flow forecasting, particularly because of the decline in numbers in some of our schools, and we've done restructuring there. But I think most of us have gotten away with submitting a 3-year budget. Focus has really mainly been on year 1, maybe a little bit on year 2, and then everybody kind of forgets about year 3 because we all use the same excuse. Well, certainly for us it's been, well, the gag income's not going in, no wonder it's getting worse, and it's not, we don't know how much it's going to increase by. So, but now we're sort of definitely heavily focused more on a 3-year to a 5-year plan. And that will involve cash flow forecasting, which we're not terribly good at the moment. I mean, some of us are stronger than others, Rebecca, I think, in terms of cash flow forecasting, but it's still a lot of spreadsheet work for us instead of it coming out of a system. So that's something we'd want to develop more. There's also a lot of, like Rebecca alluded to earlier, looking at all the SEN, the number of that's requiring a lot of detailed work from us in terms of making sure we're getting the right funding. We're having children that have been through the process and are approved, but we're not receiving the money. And then equally, we're receiving money for children who have since left. So we know that's going to get taken off us at some point, but we don't know when. And then staffing. So my big thing with staffing is making sure we are resourcing at the right value for money. So we still got a lot of people who are doing roles that they're not either not being paid for correctly or be paid for too much. It's just really difficult to say, but they're kind of, because they've been there, we've got this auto increments and it just goes up. Our performance management is not strong, I feel. I think we could be better at that. And that's where we want to utilize the system more. So we definitely use it within our finance centralized team, sort of the performance management piece, but it's rolling it out and making that much more meaningful. Because I know a lot of people just go through that performance review process, not necessarily with any kind of implications of what happens.
Shanna, you mentioned SEN funding there. Would you say that SEN funding in its own right is a conversation topic like we just went through?
Yeah, I think that linked to that for us, what we have seen certainly with using the HR system, because we've got more insight now in terms of absences, we are getting a much higher, a clearer view of absences within staff. A lot of that, there's an escalation in stress leave, an escalation in people taking days out of school. I think a lot of that to do with the TAs. For us it is, because they're working with a lot of one-to-ones. The one-to-ones are much more complicated now. The ripple effect then for the children as you remove that one-to-one, the wheels fall off because their person's not there. So it's how we can support our staff from a well-being perspective with the sort of funding, and how we can use the funding better to support the staff. Because that is one of the things, certainly with our 10 primaries, we've got a lot of. So like Rebecca and I were talking about on the train is, because alternative provision as well has come up a lot for us this year, and that's quite a lot of cost that's hitting us now. Some of it's funded, some of it isn't. But can we as a MAT in our own right find a way of supporting these children by creating something and almost creating a new breed of TA effectively? Because I'm not sure the training that they have at the moment is enough to be able to support the children that are coming through the door. We've got children and homeschool link workers who are working above and beyond to get these children into school. I mean, the school that I'm based at, where our office is, our homeschool link workers forever picking up children, supporting them in with their parents, and we're seeing that all over. So it's how do we, from the financial perspective, which is what we look at, push funding back in that way to help those children get back into school, but also to support the children who are their one-to-ones, because they are really taking a bit of a massive hit personally. So that, I think, well-being and life balance is a little bit off kilter at the moment for sure. So it's all linked with that kind of SEN funding.
And have you seen, the AI revolution that we were talking about? Do you think that will impact the Swan Trust? Is that something you're looking into?
And to be honest, it's not something we've looked at, just because I think we're trying to navigate a whole lot of other things at the moment, and it feels like a nice to have that we're quite not ready nice to have yet. I think also we're quite a small central team at the moment. So there is 4 of us in finance. There's one HR person with an admin, and that's pretty much it. So we're still developing that team. We've still got, with the merged trust, we've got 3 school business managers who've come in, so those roles need to change eventually. But it's navigating that and making sure that the schools are getting the right support as well. So yes, we would be interested, definitely, but I will not sit here and say that I've looked at it all.
It's prioritising, isn't it? It's making sure, we've actually, let's tick the boxes first and then we'll get to that point.
Exactly.
No, of course. And I think there's a digital divide between the education sector and the public sector that we've sort of talked about before with Rebecca, etc. Have you sort of seen, are you bringing that insight into your role here? Do you still have contacts with people that are working in the public sector?
Yes, I do. But I think now you're more immersed. I mean, it's interesting, obviously, when you go home and I talk to my husband who works in the corporate sector. He's like, why don't you just do it like this? Teams is an interesting thing. You know, little things like when you put a meeting in someone's calendar, don't just put it in your calendar. You can actually send an invite to everybody you want to be there so that not everybody has to go into that meeting. And we're still teaching people that. So, you know, I remember, I think, when we had Teams put in and someone was like, no, but I've still got to use Zoom. Because we're not all on Teams. Yes, we all are on Teams. We can all use Teams now. So the
educational piece is still there.
Yes, definitely. I think some mats would be way better than us, but I definitely find if you're working with people in the school, people are scared to log on to computers. I mean, we've had it where with logging on with HR, I think we had one lady who we probably spent 6 weeks, she kept logging herself off. And I'm not kidding you when I say the HR team probably spent an hour with her every single day for that 6 weeks sorting out her logon.
Oh.
But that's just, it's just the capability level you're working with. So.
And we make light of it, right? But it's really useful insight for us because we live and breathe software every single day. So that when we start talking about the benefits of AI and integrated software, we just assume that everyone is at that same place. And that's why I think it's just crucial to get that understanding.
No, it's so useful, isn't it? Like, we're talking about creating efficiencies, and you've spent 60 hours or whatever it is on trying to sort of get someone to log into a system, and that doesn't feel very efficient. So no, that's really important feedback.
I think everybody has someone like that at their school where they struggle.
Who doesn't even know how to undo the class to play a laptop.
I'm not surprised. So
that's he's used to this.
Well, I think we're at the other bit, we introduced double screens, Rebecca, and we're at Central. And everybody's like, I can't work on 2 screens. I'm like, it's much more efficient because you can have all your spreadsheets. No, can't do it. But I mean, we've gotten around that now. Now everybody's like, can I have another screen, please? Yes, you may. So that's brought about some efficiencies because obviously people are working on tiny laptops. And even if you are a head or a CEO or the director of education, at some point a spreadsheet is going to come across your desk, and especially when you've now got 10 schools and they want to see all 10 schools and there's, you've got 30 schools, there's 30 columns. It's not really doable on a small laptop.
No, I can imagine. Trying to work like this, I'm like, get used to it. And lastly, just final question, from a central map perspective, how has the software and how has our software helped you to drive a strategic decision-making process across the trust?
I think for us, because we've got quite a lot in terms of finance, budgets, and HR, it's definitely helped us to identify weaknesses, so where we're not more efficient. So things like using the central budgets has helped us a lot, because one thing we noticed is when everybody was doing it by themselves, it's like when you had a spreadsheet that isn't locked, people are like, just do this. And even though you've got a set of assumptions that everybody's supposed to be following, some people like to go off piece sometimes because they go like, oh no, maybe I'm going to change it for that. So things like that have helped us. Central banking has helped us immensely. We have got through sort of that maximizing efficiency, we have a lot of people who work across the schools. So you may have someone who does a TA role in one school but does after extended services in another school. So we've got how many contracts for some people, 5 or 6 contracts. So having that in the HR system, we didn't have visibility of that before, but what it started to show us is where, for example, someone is on a 0 hours contract, but it's actually they should have a permanent contract, so correcting that from a staffing perspective, re-looking at our whole model effectively from beginning to end. So like I say, how we're getting the information in, are we using paper to do that? Because we've now merged with another trust, there's still more work to do, because we've still got people who are signing pieces of paper, or the head teacher still likes to sign the invoice. That needs to change.
Of course.
They still want to do their backs payments, but ultimately again, we're kind of like, you don't really need to do it. And then we're forever getting the email that goes, the head hasn't signed the backs. Can you sign it at 5, at 1 minute 2? You know, that kind of stuff. So it's getting rid of that kind of thing. But driving us from a strategic perspective is how we can reduce costs in that kind of admin function to push it back.
Yep.
Or like you say, it's repurposing people into the right boxes. Because we've still got a lot of people doing multi-purpose roles. And then it's putting the right cost with the right role, resource effectively.